Come on, come on. Come on,
Deep down in a man's heart, he feels he loves it. He loves the earth. Everything that you use in this world comes from the earth. Your own self comes from the earth. The water you drink comes from the earth. The food you eat, in some shape or form. The tools you use, the wood you use, the mats you use, the chairs you sit on. They all come from the earth. When you die, you go back there.
I've traveled east and I've traveled west, from the Rhondda to Kirkcaldy, winning my bread in the dark of the mines, working as a collier laddie.
I think a good pet is like a good woman. You feel that you owe an obligation to both. It's been my life, love, to serve the men that work in the pit and to mix with them, because I find that they are real men.
I've worked me shifts, deep mines and drifts, and I've starved in tawny pandy. I've seen men die in the darkened by, working as a collier laddie.
As a boy, 4, 5, 6-year-old, I remember my father talking about this legendary figure, Temple the Big Hewer. Whether he was real or purely legendary, I never knew, even to this day.
Out of the dirt and darkness I was born, go down. Out of the hard black coal face I was torn, go down. Kicked on the world and the earth split open, crawled through a crack where the rock was broken, burrowed a hole away in the coal, go down.
Oh, that was Jackie Tor from Derbyshire.
In a cradle of coal in the darkness I was laid, go down. Down in the dirt and darkness I was raised, go down. Cut me teeth on a 5-foot timber, held up the roof with me little finger, started me time away in the mine, go down.
Oh, yes, we can find umpteen stories about Isaac Lewis in the anthracite.
On the day that I was born, I was 6 foot tall, go down. And the very next day I learned the way to Hull, go down. On the 3rd day worked at board and pillar, worked on the 4th as a long wall filler, getting me steam up, hewing the seam, go down.
Yes, oh yes, this Towers, well, you couldn't be beat. This George Towers is big.
Robert Towers.
Bob Towers.
Bah, he's a big man.
It was an art with that man. He used to keep himself for the job. Everybody in that house had to be in bed at 9 o'clock at night. He was the big hewer.
It was like a machine when he was hewing. You could hear the pick, 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 pick. As regular as the clock. Never used to sing.
Never
tired.
I'm the son of the son of the son of a collier's son.
My grandfather used to work in the pit.
Coal dust flows in the veins where the blood should run.
My daddy's a miner.
5 steel ribs and an iron backbone, teeth that can bite through rock and black stone. Working me time away in the mine goes
That's how you get your job at the pit if you go in for a trade.
When I say a miner, I mean a chap whose roots are right down through the earth.
My dad was a miner, been a miner for about over 40 years. My Uncle Jerry is an electrician. My brother-in-law's a fitter. My Uncle Tony's a miner. My Uncle Frank's a belt attendant, repairing belts, looking after them. My granddad was a miner. All families practically miners, something to do with mine.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to be a miner and work my way up if possible.
I felt it was a great thing to be a miner as a boy, to go down the pit and come up, and I felt that I was a brave man and all the rest of it.
My father took me along the first day to the premise of the colliery. Now look here now, my boy, he said to me, when the manager will approach you, stand on your toes and show that you are willing and ready for work. And if he asks you your name, reply sharply and show him that you are an active boy. Those were the words that my father uttered to me the first day I intended to start in the mines. School days over, come on then, John. Time to be getting your pit boots on. On with your short and moleskin trousers, time you was on your way. Time you was learning the pitman's job and earning the pitman's pay.
I was 14 when I first went down the mine. November the 5th, Guy Fawkes Day, on a Monday.
Come on then, Jim, it's time to go. Time you was working down below. Time to be handling a pick and shovel your start at the pit today. Time you was learning the collier's job and earning a collier's pay.
I was 12 when I left school, and as soon as I reached the age of 14, I went to the pit. The pit was the place.
Come on then, die, it's almost light. Time you was off to the anthracite. The morning mist is in the valley, it's time you was on your way. Time you was learning the miner's job and earning a miner's pay.
When I was a boy, we all thought of the mines. When I was in school, I used to parade wearing my long trousers and parading with my naked lamp on the road in the night as colliers. Months before I had a job, you see. Oh, yes.
I was interested in being an electrician. It was the only place I could get a job as an electrician. So I left school when I was 15, I'm nearly out of my time now as an electrician.
There's the signal bell, now the cage is coming to take you down with the man of the morning shift, all the different kinds of miners.
There are hewers.
And there are putters.
And there are brushers, there are practice men and cutters. There are hauliers and creeper lads and rappers.
There are drawers, there are benchmen, there are strappers.
There are pillar men and clippers, there are trammers, wagon tippers, there are pulley men a going down the hole. There are timbermen and strippers, fitters, shacklers and rippers, all are miners and they help to get the coal.
Now it's into the cage and wait for the onset as Ringland.
The onsetter, of course, is generally a sour-faced bloke. He's got to be to control them all.
There are brakemen, there are swagmen, there's back-end and wagon waymen, there are firemen and stonemen, there are heading men and roadmen, there's a bellman and an overman, a cockman and a waterman, all miners and the help they get the coal. And the signal is wrong.
the cages away, lads. There are lashers on and fillers. There are packers, there are drillers, there are deputies and hitchers and the dilly bottom lads. Hookers on and tally drivers, haulage lads and bogey riders, and the others.
From this day on, these men will be your brothers. When away go down.
It's a different life altogether than, you know, on sea. It's like, you know, everybody's your friend, you know. You haven't got authority, you know, pushing you all the time. You know.
Oh dear, the experience to go down the pit in the first instance, it was a terrific experience to me. I wasn't shaken or nervous at all, but the excitement of it all. And my little oil lamp, you know, put on the belt, and we were hoarded in this square cage, and I think it contained about 10 people or 12. Down we'd go, the banksman would pull a lever, and down the cage would drop.
Down in the dark, through the pinching seam, through the red vein, through the black band seam.
And everything seemed to close in on me. I could feel the drums in my ears are just ringing, as though they're going to burst.
Down through the 5/4 shield, Rowan, Brasthill, Magdalen and Low Mainseal.
But after you descend halfway down the pit, the most peculiar feeling, you seem to be coming back up again. And I said, there's a feeling to go down. I realized what was happening now. The cage was slowing, and the pressure was coming against you.
Down through the soap, the white, the peacock, trigloin and lower vein, to the deep pit bottom.
Oh dear, complete new world, strange world entirely. Although it was well lit, electric light at the pit bottom. But once we turn our backs of the pit bottom, I'm going into narrow places now, down into the darkness, and then the experience comes so horrible and terrible. I was frightened now. I don't know where I was going.
You're going to a place in the earth where the hard rock heaves and boils.
It boils out as you open the road, so the road closes in again.
You're going to the coal face where the big Hewer sweats and toils.
You can't visualize this seam like a mat stretching beneath the earth, a layer of a cake, till you can see it in all the tunnels following you all over the pit. There's the seam, it's always there.
There, where the earth bears down on the 4-foot spars.
Wonder how long it took all this earth, this 1,000-odd feet, to get on top of that coal. Must have been a small place, the earth.
There in the world that never saw sun or moon or stars.
The silence in the pit, it's like infinity, or the bottom of the ocean. It's peaceful. And yet, it's sometimes frightening. You could be driven to panic with it, I think. You've never known absolute blackness. Always there's stars at night and there's always a moon. But there's nothing. and you can feel this pressing on you, the darkness. You can feel this darkness.
The world where a man is always a stranger, where the miner works and lives with danger.
You see, you've got the smells, and you've got your look, and you put your hands behind you, and you feel the rough surface of the stone. You see, you feel the dust and the props, the bark that was on the props. And you used to visualize things happening in the blackness.
Here is the place where the big Hewer earns his pay. Go down. Here is the place he battles with night and day. Go down. Spits on his hands, cracks rocks and boulders, bears up the world on his own two shoulders, digging a hole out, getting the coal. Go down.
I was amazed at, you know, what they could do. You know, just, I didn't think anything like that could exist, you know. Because roadways, you know, they went in for about 4 miles, and I think it was a great achievement to do something like that.
I would never go back to the colliery. Although they may not be working so hard physically as they did in years ago, they're working in more danger, things are a lot faster, and what you must understand, everything is steel. If you were a wooden post falling around, it wouldn't hurt you so much. You got a steel post falling around and you lost your hand. And this is the vast difference. And what people don't understand, they say modern machinery, you know. When I was working in Dillwyn, we had horses pulling most of your supplies up to where you were working. Today you've got ropes, haulage ropes, which very often managers' fault. They don't keep the ropes up to the advance of which they want the face to work. Hence, the men have to leave their jobs to carry. And we're not carrying wood 9-foot timber, no man. You're carrying 14-foot rings on square work, 15-foot bars, which take 3 or 4 men to carry. And this alone is strange enough. And actually the bumps which you get only through carrying stuff. You've done away with the horse, but now the miner's doing the horse's work. You know what I mean? This is it.
So now you know how the coal it is got. You're champion at drilling the hole. You're a dab hand at stacking, you're champion at packing the roof when you're shooting the coal.
It's the toil and the sweat wins the coal that you get when you're working away in the hole.
You know how to hew and you know how to fill, cut the scorton without any trouble. Set a good pair of gears and crawl on your ears and use both the pick and the shovel.
If a roof or a wall sagging threaten to fall, then you know how to move at the double.
And that's the sort of thing that you look for in a miner. I don't know, it's a queer sort of feeling, and it's a danger that you see there. A fear. Did you know it's going to happen?
It's your only defense, and they call it pet sense, and your life may depend on it there.
You hear a prop creak, and you, in your own mind, you can see that little part just move that 1/4 of an inch. You know what's going to happen. You're not working with a piece of land. You're working with the world. But down the pit, you've got to have that in you to sense hidden dangers. You know full well that she can be a nasty bitch when she likes. She can be real nasty. She's like an angry woman. She just throws her weight about. And if you're not sharp enough and get out of the way of her, she'll kill you.
When you go underground, if you hear the machinery going, you don't think of it. But once that machinery is on stop, you'll hear every bit of noise. You'll hear the timber creaking behind you, and face where the coal working, with the gases. Well, see, if the machinery is going, we're filling coal, we don't look at that danger.
Jimmy, come back. Jimmy, come back.
Hold on a minute. I think the top's working.
You find that as the strain is put on everything, the top begins to trickle a bit, and you get a few nodules of slack come down on top of your head, and then a few bits a bit bigger, and then you begin to wonder how heavy the next lot's going to be, whether it'll be a 2-pound chunk or a half a ton.
Wait for the trickling slack in the faulted vein where the rock is crushed and crumbled, ground to powder.
Up and down. And she's been tinkering on a bit. Bit stone being dropping. And I heard a crack. The timber just been going like pistol shots.
Watch where the floor swells up like a festered coil when the timbers crack. And the girders buckle and twist, and the roof at your back is gathering might, a threatening fist of rock, the whole weight of the earth.
Yes. He was working next to me, and a huge stone came down and killed him.
He was killed in the pit. He was killed on a Friday morning, on a Good Friday morning, I shall always remember. A stone fell on him, and they brought him home.
By Clyde's bonny banks, where I sadly did wander, among the pit heaps as evening drew nigh.
I shall always remember. He was killed in the pit.
I spied a young woman all dressed in deep mourning, a weeping and wailing with many a sigh.
It's been a long day of waiting and hoping on the surface, and below ground, hard work trying to reach the missing miners.
When they bring him in, I see him now. Brought him in and brought him on the stretcher on the floor there, in his pit dirt. And the men bathing him like on the floor.
In from the mine in his pit dirt they bring him. The neighbours they stand by the door. The fire will gan out and the bairns will gan hungry. He'll walk to the pit no more.
You don't know when they go out, whether you're going to see them again or what, do you? You just pack the snap up and off they go, and you've got to depend on God above to bring them back for you, haven't they? When you're a miner's wife.
And down from the top. And it burned me completely. Everything went dark, my lamp was knocked out. It was the ordinary hand lamp, not the cap lamp. And I was shouting, but in those few seconds, everything come before me. It's a terrible experience. And eventually, I heard men, where are you? And they covered me head. But they couldn't get me out. The dirt had rolled, and from the waist down, I was fast. Well, I started shoveling, and it still kept rolling down. And they put a umbrella, what they call umbrella, a piece of old door, boards over me. All the time it kept bitting, dribbling down, and I thought any minute now it's going to come again. And to top it up, I got a piece of stone on my buttocks here, and I could feel blood running down my leg. You know, I said, knock me out, knock me out.
An accident, and they kept him at the hospital about 5 hours. He was late coming home. And I thought he was doing a Dublin, and they brought him home in ambulance. That's when he had a crack at the top of the head. That's my only time. He's had some bad accidents, but he's always come home at his own new time.
If he was to come home early, which he did that once, do you remember? And when I looked at him, I said to him, "Oh, here comes Jim." You know, he was early, and when we looked at him, he got his ribs all done up. He got a nasty gash on his back, you know, where something had fallen, coal or something had fallen and hit him. But you worry all the time they're away.
They're black diamonds, but what are the price of lives, isn't it?
But a man that works down the pit, a miner, you know, it's a long way down, as the saying is.
There is a question of safety. There is a question of health.
If one cuts oneself, it sometimes heals by producing a scar. And in the same way, one can imagine these small dust nodules in the lung as comprising small scars resulting from a form of damage produced by the dust.
10 hours a day, you're down that hole. You're working coal, you're talking coal, you're eating coal, you're breathing coal.
Dust. The first X-ray film is of a 19-year-old and shows a normal chest.
It's always dusty.
Here are the ribs and these darker areas.
The dust was so abnormal that you couldn't see each other. You're just feeling your way about.
Passing through these dark areas, there are a few little shadows, and these represent the larger blood vessels, and to some extent...
The curse of underground is the dust. Dust is the giant killer, but it doesn't strike all at once, but he likes its time. And he takes his time, and he stealthily walks into your human system.
These represent the earliest signs of pneumoconiosis.
He is the real enemy, so minute in his form, and yet so strong in its ravaging powers.
We find this category 1 pneumoconiosis in about 7% of coal workers, taking an average throughout Great Britain. This is a category 3 pneumoconiosis. Here we see the white spots much more evident than on the earlier film.
I've seen victims of this terrible curse, this dust. I've seen victims of it, reduced to nothing. Couldn't breathe, no lungs to breathe.
Occurs in about 2.8% of coal miners whom we see.
Only the beating of the heart, waiting for the time to be called away.
He couldn't walk any more than 10 yards, and he had to stop for breath. It was pitiful to watch him. He even sighed. 10 yards.
Which have replaced the normal lung tissue.
He's got a concrete slab of coal round his belly inside. That's what he's got. He's probably a chap of 60-year-old. He's worked on the pit since he was 15-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old. That's coal dust that he's inhaled while he's working down there.
Better when Jack Frost is about.
He's got inside his lungs a good tombstone of solid coal dust.
The east wind kills me.
They died from dust.
If all these our comrades died in one day, then you'd get the press of Fleet Street with its headlines, major disaster. You'd get Lord Mayor's funds and what have you to assist the widows and the dependents. But because they die separately in their own little cottages, just surrounded by their own little families, then there's no press lines, no Lord Mayor's funds, and no sensation.
And there is no compensation for it. No compensation can be paid for such a thing as this, because it is beyond repair. No money will repair it. And it have destroyed an army of the miners.
I got 4 brothers died with it and 2 step-brothers. Died with pneumoconiosis.
And yet it's good to come from the pit. Especially after you've been working there, you're tired. Especially in the summer. You say to yourself, life's good. You really feel good to be alive.
I can judge a shot of powder to a 16th of a grain. I can fill me 16 tubs, though the water falls like rain. And if you'd like to see me in the perpendicular vein, it's when I'm setting timber in the barroom, in the barroom, in the barroom. Oh, that's where we congregate to drill the holes and fill the coals and shovel back the slate. And for to do a job of work, ooh, I am never late. That's providing that we have it in the bargain.
The miner has to possess that sense of humor. A glum face on the ground takes you nowhere. And the gloomier you are, you've got to join in with your wit, whatever you possess, showing that you are alive and that you are forgetting the outside issues.
Well, I don't know, says the manager. Jobs are nothing much doing here now, is it? Come back in the spring, he said. No, indeed, I don't. I want to. What the hell do you think we are? 2 bloody cuckoos?
When Isaac Lewis passed away, what do you think they done? Sold him off for anthracite at £20 a ton.
When you started? Said Monday. Said, when it was you put your lamp in? Said, oh, I don't need a lamp, he said, I'm working days. Oh, listen now. Listen to me now, he said. Rome wasn't built in a day. No, he said. But if you were the bloody manager, they'd finish it before dinner, he said.
I can't think of anything underground without a humour.
We can work and we can fight, we can sing and tell a tale, whether we come from Durham or Northumberland or Wales.
Let the cage go down, come on and try the local brew. Join with us and have a few, sit down and tell a tale or two. And if the story isn't true, it's neither here nor there. Let the cage go down, let the cage go down.
I want to make you welcome to this 20th gala of the South Wales Miners. This year we are linking the celebration with the 75th anniversary of the formation of the South Wales Miners Federation.
And I term the anthracite coal as a beacon of life. It's a beacon of light and life. It gives you the light, the colours, and it gives you that necessity which we call heat. It is a beacon of life.
Down in the dark, through the peacock seam, through the big vein, through the black band seam.
The peacock, the middle and the lower veins are the best anthracite veins in the world.
Down through the 4 foot, the Cornish, the 9 foot, the Bryn and the Welsh vein seam.
Now, the seams in South Wales crop from the surface, and there was very little need for capital to get into the seam. What was really needed was muscle and sweat. But in the 1920s came machine cutting. That wasn't very acceptable to the workmen in the anthracite. And there was years of trouble and strife to get these machines working.
Times were bad and labor cheap. Women on the waste pits scrabbling for coal, cutters on the coal face, colliers on the dole. If you don't fight, then you don't eat.
We've got a record of militancy that has been born out of our struggles.
Their fathers wander, singing for pennies in the street.
I had a sister living in the valley at that time, and oh, what a sight was to see the pride that was there, and yet they were on the verge of starvation.
All they had was their pride. And oftentimes, where there was the greatest need, there was the greater pride. And an unwillingness to go and seek assistance of any kind. The miner has always had the pride thing. He thinks, well, if he can't make his living by the muscles of his arms and his legs, well, he just doesn't want it.
That is the reason why miners are so militant in their own cause. They've been taught it from the cradle. I was taught at a very early age that it was like hitting out with a hammer of hate on the anvil of bitterness. Every knock had full power of hate into it.
My bitch Marianne wedding willow, Arta bir wasim anya, my baban and the creed. And in 1912, we had the great struggle. For the first time in the history of the miners of this country, we had a struggle embracing all of the miners in Britain. And that was the first time in 7 centuries of the coal trade that the miners of this country came together to make a stand.
Once I grafted alone there in me stove, way down. Hewed and timbered, sharpened me picks and all, way down. Now I'm part of a working team and geared to the pace of a big machine. I dig in a hole and get in the coal, way down.
You have dismissed the individual man by the machine. His tasks are determined by the machine. He is virtually a man who just follows the machine.
The machine is our boss, and it is our boss, isn't it? That's all they want today is a ton of coal, which they only want a ton of coal today, which is true.
A mine is a body with coal flowing through the veins. Men are the hands and muscle and nerves and brains. Where surface workers and face teams labor, each man dependent upon his neighbor.
One of a team that serves a machine way down.
strenuous work. Everybody's not built the same, we're not all the same, and there's got to be allowances for the slow, there's got to be allowances for the weak, there's got to be allowances for the poor chap that's worked in the pit all his life and suffered through dust and conditions. We think about all them things.
Sweated in hot pits, lay in the dark wet seams and froze. Been locked out, known despair when pits were closed. Agreed to the deal on power loading, watch the terms of the deal eroding. Again we're betrayed and seen our pay go down.
They're not isolated now as they were in the old days, where you had a collier, you had the labourer, you had the haulier, you had a fellow on the small engines on the ground. They all had their different wage rates, and there was no recognition of the fact that all those different grades were responsible for the total output.
You had the position before of dog-eat-dog.
Power loading agreements have destroyed the old vicious system that was exploited by the coal owners of a price list with a man being paid on the basis of his productive ability. Now you have all the men being paid on the basis of the productivity of the machine.
In '66 they signed the NPLA. Coal-face workers agreed to cuts in pay in order to raise the wages of their brothers, surface workers, class 3 men and others.
This became a unifying force, the National Power Loading Agreement. It unified coalfield and coalfield, pit and pit, but it also unified Davidsman and pieceworker then. We were shouting the same thing. Lord Robbins was giving the miners a unity they never had before.
But in the days that they accepted the National Power Loading Agreement, they was under the impression that the benefits of mechanisation would not only accrue to the National Coal Board, would accrue to them as individuals, that they would at least get a slice of the cake.
In '66 they signed the NPLA. Power of the local lodges drained away. Voice of the rank and file coal miners still, in return for pie in the sky, for promises still unfulfilled.
How much have you got there?
£50 10. 50.
What is your job, Chris?
Cleaning up on the washes.
£13, 10 pence, £15. And I'm doing haulage. Can you live on it?
For 100 years and more we struggled and fought for a share of the wealth we'd earned. What you don't fight for, you don't get, is the painful lesson that we have learned. Hunger has been our teacher, need is a powerful preacher. If you would eat, then upon your feet, men, strike.
But I'll say you this, they've done wrong. They ought to accepted the wage now, and then go after.
That's what you've done wrong all along.
You say they've been conned. Who do you think's been conned?
The miners.
Oh boy.
He's wanted 1,000 that had gone back. Other 999 that have said stop it, same as we're all saying now.
Yeah.
This sort we don't want. We can get rid of this sort, we don't want them.
Speaking as one of the men that the strike was all about. I'm a surface worker. Now, you can't get any lower than my rate. The original strike was over us, the lowest pay. Yeah.
And they could see then, the only way they could do it is by mass.
But after the 4th week, they was determined they weren't going to go back until they had the full wage claim. When the Saltley come, when the Birmingham, as we said then, is then or never. And that's when we made in mass to Birmingham, and that's when we clenched the strike.
But you're down there not to break your picket line. Your own union.
I'm assure you, if you turn around on this picket line, the lads will respect you and will be delighted with you.
They went to Saltley, and from the Saturday we were sending more and more and more, and yet they couldn't have the gates closed. What did you find? Their brothers, the other trade unionists in Birmingham, coming to the assistance of the miners because they understood if they failed to close the gates of Saltley, the miners' struggle would have failed. That's what they realized. The miners of Britain in 1921 were on the defensive. The miners of Britain in 1926 were on the defensive. But the miners of 1972 went into the attack, and they succeeded.
They'll always have a unity now when they want something. And once they go out for it, they'll all go out together like they did the last strike.
The fine coal is so essential that they won't let it to slip back again, never. I don't think so. And I think everybody feels the same way. You see, there was a lot of talking about this North Sea Island, God knows what, and the thing, it was going to close all the pits and things like that. But it proved them wrong in 1972 strike. And it come round to this one, it put people out of work and 3 days a week and things like that. They realize how essential coal is, and I think everybody is in mind to keep the coalfield open.
But within 6 months of the announcement that they were going to spend £1,000 million, they are still embarking on pit closures. Gresford is going to close, Solway in Cumberland, 2 collieries in Yorkshire and a colliery in Durham.
We've got to the stage now where the coal mining industry and the majority of men in it are more or less saying to themselves, well, please your bloody self what you do with it, because they've spent time, money, an unlimited amount of effort has gone into really spelling out to society at large the truth of the situation. And we're still in very much the same situation as we was 10 years ago, where we're aware that the powers that be, whether government or political parties, look to the North Sea oil and say, well, it'll not happen here, the same as it's happening in America. And it's these kind of things, that I think's reflected in lads' attitude. If you're going to close them, well, come and bloody close them. The fight has just been one difficult fight, and people have ignored it.
When the last man leaves the pit for the factory floor, where the work is clean, the danger less, and the pay is more. When the last of the oil is gone, who will remember the miner's rejected skill? Who will go down?
Out of the collier's courage and skill and sweat and brawn, out of the hard black rock the age of power was born. From the deepest dark of unending night we brought the gift of heat and light.